Screen. Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name is Vivut Sharma, and with me today are members of Group 4, Nate Hedrick and Parker Zaharis. Kevin Yang is also a member of our group, but he was exempt from being present in this presentation. So let's see here. In this presentation, we aim to highlight some of the major issues in relation to the Utah housing market, and more specifically, the housing scene in Salt Lake City. Utah housing market has seen an incredible decrease in the amount of affordable housing, regardless of the fact that the state is now building houses at a faster rate than ever before in the state's history. There have been a number of factors that have caused the Utah housing market to surge, factors such as the use of services like Airbnb and Vrbo, as well as a spike in the population. As more and more people have found their way into the state, as a result of this, median cost of a single family home has increased by 23.6% solely in the last year, which is following a 30.6% increase that was seen in the years 2020 to 2021. And now, while looking at the contributing factors and seeing the housing market get worse, it's come to our attention that we would be able to use information systems to gain a competitive advantage that would allow us to reduce the cost of building homes and do so more efficiently. And now you may be asking yourself, how does the housing market in Utah affect society as a whole, or just members of Utah? And some of those factors are the rising prices and a housing shortage that has made it more difficult for the average Utah residents to find a house. And you can also see that the housing shortage has impacted students' housing options, as well as full-time college students, because they have less tolerance and flexibility on the changing prices. And now next we'll be hearing from Nate in regards to an interview that we had taken.
So just being able to do some research and having met up with an executive at Perry Homes Association named Brandon Dyer, I was able to talk to him about how they're facing this shortage of homes that we're experiencing here in Utah, and especially from a company that focuses mainly on building homes here in the state. He mainly talked about a lot of the things that they're going through as builders and contractors right now. It is really hard for them to get the materials that they need to be able to build a home. Shortages in supplies such as wood, lumber, copper and metal tubing for electric work and things like that for the homes are taking a lot of time to get. On top of that, they're dealing with a lot of problems, especially here in Utah, with people really not wanting the way Utah is to change. A lot of the a lot of the native people of Utah aren't wanting the foreign people moving in to take up their space or make housing situations closer together. He mentioned to me that one of the main things that we have a shortage of is affordable and cheaper homes, such as townhomes or duplexes, things like that, which a lot of people that are native to Utah are very much against. They don't want to see these things move up. Or be put up in their neighborhoods because they want to have their space. They want to feel like it's the good old Utah that they're used to. He mentioned a lot of the problems that he's seeing is coming from city councils and just rules and regulations that they're having to deal with in each individual city in order to be able to put up homes there. It's been extremely difficult for them to get any new homes built for these factors, which is what is making the current homes so much more expensive than they were just years before. He also mentioned just some solutions that we've kind of put into our paper and what we think is best to be able to solve this problem using IS, making a more streamlined system to be able to just build a home through just by having easy access to the rules and regulations, not needing so much approval from city councils about zoning and things like that. Really, he was really focused on being able to implement a smooth process that would allow them to build homes more quickly, that would in turn allow us to be able to buy homes more quickly. Next.
Yeah, so after conducting our research and discussing with Mr. Dyer from Perry Homes, we reached a beneficial and feasible solution that is comprised of two steps. First, we hope that the government will increase the amount of financial backing that they give to housing subsidies. This will allow for the housing supply to be raised quicker in order to address the rising demand in Salt Lake. And an interesting statistic along this is that in the past 100 years, the United States of America have relied only 4% on government housing subsidies, opposed to nations in Western Europe ranging from 10% to 40%. And that basically just shows like how much more we could be relying on the government to supply housing. And the second step of our solution is to alter the zoning throughout Salt Lake County in order to inspire more growth in the multifamily housing industry. Basically, multifamily housing is just apartment buildings. That's all it is. So to elaborate on that, most of Salt Lake is currently zoned for single family housing. So just neighborhoods. And while like most people would obviously prefer that decreases the housing density. So if we alter the zoning to focus more on multifamily, that would enable us to build up instead of out and increase the housing density and address, once again, the rising demand in Salt Lake. And then, as mentioned before, IS can be implemented into these solutions in several ways. IS has been seen addressing issues like this in other markets. For example, a company from Nashville called Built Technologies created and has begun to implement an IS tool that is basically just a software that helps streamline the processes along getting a home, such as acquiring loans, getting inspectors and contractors if you're building a home. And then an additional example of an IS tool being implemented in the housing market is a company from Arizona called Mosaic created a software that would help manage and basically organize the materials and the workforce required in order to undergo a massive housing project. So we could take software similar to these, such as Built Technologies and Mosaic, and implement those in our effort in Salt Lake to address the housing shortage. And this solution falls short. While it is a great solution, it does obviously have some pros and some cons. And the largest con being that this will likely upset taxpayers because the housing subsidies come from the government, which comes from tax dollars. And obviously this would upset Utah taxpayers because it's taking their money in order to address this situation that was caused by people from other states moving there. And this could easily be solved in the legislation that establishes the housing subsidies. There could be a clause that pledges the revenue, because eventually there will be revenue generated by the projects that the government is investing in, the housing subsidies, and that revenue can be pledged back to the pool of tax dollars to be used for Utah state purposes. And to conclude, sorry, excuse me, I lost my spot. To conclude, the housing shortage was caused by two major things. First, a massive increase of our population in Utah, and secondly, large quantity of short-term rentals such as VRBO and Airbnb that have popped up in recent years. This has negative effects such as the construction industry has been down since the Great Recession in 2008, and it will continue to be so unless we address it. And secondly, the Salt Lake housing market is a seller's market, which forces buyers to increase their price offerings and basically spend way more than they have to on homes. And finally, it makes finding a home for young adults, such as college students, us, very difficult. We've seen that firsthand. It's really hard to find a house near campus. And furthermore, in order to get a better opinion on a more expert opinion on this entire situation, we spoke to Brandon Dyer, who's an executive at Perry Homes, which is a major home builder in Utah. And to summarize what he said, he basically just said that Utah doesn't have the sheer amount of infrastructure required in order to handle the massive influx of people. That just requires such a massive supply of homes, and we don't have it. And in order to fix that, we need to immediately start increasing our housing supply, and we could implement the IS tools such as Mosaic and Built Technologies, as mentioned before, in order to solve that. And then just to restate, the solutions we recommend are to first increase government housing subsidies, and secondly, alter the zoning throughout Salt Lake County to inspire more multifamily housing being constructed. Thank you so much and have a great day.